After a rather shaky performance, Floyd Schofield continues to call out Shakur Stevenson. His basis, he basically says Shakur ain't got power like Renee Giron. So he says they can get it. Shakur can, they can get it, lock horns, get the fight. Now, I want to give you guys my thoughts. Now, I did watch the fight. Listen, from what I seen, and this is just being honest like I always am on my channel, Floyd Schofield needs more work before fighting anybody top 5. Like somebody who's known top 5. Guys like Gervonta Davis, guys like Shakur Stevenson. These are like known, known top guys. I don't see it. That's just being real with you. I do not see it. He seems very offensive minded, which could be a problem. Like, he was doing post-fight interviews and he said that this was my first time in there with a puncher, and just the way he was answering some of the questions, for me, it wasn't believable to me, right? One of the reporters in the media scrum said, at any point in this fight, were you ever hurt? And he says, not really. But then he goes on. First of all, it didn't sound convincing when he said it. He said he wasn't really hurt, but the rabbit punches, oh, it's just real hard to explain. What? What are we talking about? And I don't know what it is about boxers where they're so prideful that they cannot admit the obvious. Like, you don't have to be in the ring to visualize and see somebody reacted and they were hurt. Like, for example, Dmitry Bivol, he didn't go down versus Artur Beterbiev, but to a trained, keen boxing viewer like myself, I was able to tell without him getting knocked out, without him getting knocked down, that he was getting hurt in certain moments of the Beterbiev fight. Point blank, period. Now, he can say whatever he wants, just like all fighters in their post-fight commentary, but the world sees it, right? You look at Schofield and you look at his other fights that were easier, he wasn't looking like this. He wasn't acting like this. He wasn't having mental lapses where he literally walks away from an opponent pretty unguarded and takes his eye off the opponent and gives his back. I mean, it's crazy that there's a media scrum and no media member really bothered to ask that question. For me, that I want to know the logic or what was going through his head when he did that, because to me, that could have been catastrophic. And that shows me, just that move alone shows me you're not ready for the elite guys. There is no reason, even if someone's rabbit punching you. Like, I hate when I watch boxing and a fighter is trying to protest and complain to the ref to the point of being distracted. It's a fight. You can't be worried about the referee. Sometimes the ref doesn't see it, doesn't have the angle, the vantage point, or they're biased, whatever the reason is. Sometimes the refs aren't giving you guys in the ring the calls that you want. So you could try to notify, that's not a problem, trying to notify the ref, oh, he hit me low, so they're paying attention. But I'm talking about more so the instances where you see a fighter and they're overly protesting and complaining to the ref, and then the ref still is not giving them the calls that they want, and they don't look like it's like, to me, it shows a level of uncomfortability and mental lapse when you're literally in the middle of a fight, in between the round, and the ref isn't giving you the calls that you want, and you keep looking over to the ref while a guy's trying to punch you and things of that sort. That makes no sense, because let's say a person's hitting you low a person's rabbit punching you, whatever the foul is, there's a time and a place. Usually when you're in the ring and you go to your corner for in between round stuff, the ref comes in and says, blah, 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 round 6, or checks in on the team. At that point, you and your team can say, hey, peep my opponent. They keep low blowing. They keep rabbit punching me. So for me, it looks like a person who's uncomfortable and they're not in control of the fight. So as a result, it's making them more uncomfortable and they don't know what to do. So it's kind of like an inexperienced mental void, mental lapse type of deal when I see that. And that's exactly what Schofield did. So to be barking up the tree of Tank Davis, I mean, Tank's at the highest level. So to me, that's stupid. But even Shakur Stevenson, listen, I give criticism where it's due and I give credit where it's due. Like, you know, there's some things that Shakur does and I give criticism for it, but there's some things that he does good. And the reality is Shakur is a good fighter. He's skilled. The fact that you're worried about, like, the way you're answering questions lets me know there's more growth needed for Floyd Schofield, because he says Shakur doesn't hit like Giron, so he's not really worried about it. But that's not the only way to get a stoppage, is you have one punch knockout power. Because if we're really being real, Giron is not no Tank Davis better Biev style puncher himself. He might have some sneaky power or something like that, but he's not like a one punch knockout artist. Michelle Rivera fought him and had no real issues with him at all. You know what I mean? So he's not that explosive of a puncher. He's just a rugged, tough, durable, you know, guy who's trying to make a name and play spoiler. So just the fact that Schofield like made it sound easy, like the Shakur Stevenson fight would be a walk in the park based solely on Shakur's lack of power, I still think that's foolish, because if you look at the Artem Haratunian fight in the middle rounds, he was hurting Haratunian. You know, it's just Shakur doesn't always know how to put it together and necessarily finish, or his style doesn't permit him to do it, whatever the situation is. But he's very hard to hit, and the totality of unanswered punches, getting discouraged, you'll get tired, getting pot shotted. To be honest, what I seen, Shakur would eat him alive. Shakur would eat him alive, because can we say that what we've seen from Schofield is a higher threat level and more experienced than Oscar Valdez? Oscar Valdez one-punched Miguel Berchelt and knocked him out in one of the knockouts of the year when he fought Berchelt. So that was extremely dangerous. And he was coming forward, trying to let his hands go and stuff like that. And Shakur, that's one of his best performances. So I don't know. They say you're only as good as your last performance. What I seen, he's nowhere near ready for Tank, and he's nowhere near ready for Shakur Stevenson. A fight I would like to see is Abdullah Mason. I think that, just based on the fact that both of those guys are very young, that would be the fight. I would rather see that, just because one person will advance and then one person won't. You know, I did want to see the H2O Silva, but he ended up getting knocked out. So I don't know if the value is still there for that particular fight because Silva got knocked out. But I think the fight to make is Abdullah Mason. But as far as to me, I feel like the Schofields have to slow down with the trash talk to the upper echelon guys like Gervonta Davis, based solely off that performance.